Hello, my friends. Today, the Russians continue to actively launch assaults along the entire front line. Russian war correspondents fighting in the Donetsk direction report that Ukrainian forces are hitting them hard, and they estimate it will take another 2 years to fully capture the Donetsk region. The whole world is urging Ukraine to reach the end of the first round. But after the first round, there will be a second and then another. Kyiv is promised a Karabakh scenario, regaining territory over time because they will never accept losing it and will continue to try to reclaim it even if international documents are signed. The second round could happen in a week or in 10, 20 years, or it could be left to our grandchildren. Russia has set conditions for the complete liberation of the Kherson region, including Kherson city and the Zaporizhzhia region. But liberating Kherson means crossing the Dnipro River, and then there is the city of Zaporizhzhia. God willing, we will take the Slovyansk-Kramatorsk agglomeration to push them out of there. Simple calculation. At this rate, we will clear only the Donetsk region in 2 years, not to mention talking about Odessa or Kharkiv. As we can see, the Russians understand their army's situation and realize that they lack the strength to capture large cities. They believe that if a ceasefire happens, it will be followed by another war after some time. What do you think about this? Please write your thoughts in the comments. Meanwhile, reports are emerging from various sources that by the end of the year, up to 10 F-16s may appear in Ukrainian skies. These jets will help the air defense forces shoot down Russian missiles. However, when over 100 aircraft will arrive is still a big question. Zelensky has mentioned that Ukraine needs about 130 aircraft to at least be on par with Russia. Then their aviation will be fair conducting such strikes. Overall, there are a few good news regarding aviation so far. Meanwhile, Mykhailo Podolyak said that Ukraine is ready for negotiations with Russia. However, of course, each side doesn't want to accept the other's terms.
Україна не є країною-агресором, Україна не починала цю війну, і, безумовно, для того, щоб правильно себе позиціонувати, Україна говорить про те, що ми так готові до переговорного процесу, щоб російська пропаганда витрачає багато коштів на те, щоб створити враження, типу, ми там війна йде, але ми готові до переговорів, Україна не готова до переговорів. Ні, Україна готова до переговорів, це головний пункт. Так? Тобто переговори, безумовно, потрібні, але пункт номер 2, на яких умовах, на яких підставах будуть йти ці переговори. І тут Україна чітко говорить, так, давайте ввести переговори на умовах, які спираються на міжнародне право як концепція. І головне з цієї концепції – це територіальна цілісність і суб'єктність держави, суверенітет.
Overall, we are waiting to see how events will unfold. Meanwhile, the fighting along the entire front line doesn't stop. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians have once again had successes. Yesterday, they managed to advance 3.5 kilometers, significantly worsening the situation in this sector of the front. For now, battles for Gleboka continue, and the Russians are shelling the entire territory with caps at maximum intensity to make it easier to advance further. In Vovchansk, as you already know, the Russians have also had many successes. They managed to advance in several directions, worsening the situation here as well. However, the Ukrainian forces are doing everything possible to hold the defense. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians continue to expand the sector of the front where they have repeatedly managed to advance. Today, they are assaulting Novoosinovo and Kurilivka. For now, there are no changes along the front line, but the fighting continues. In the Svatove area, The Russians are still assaulting Stelmakhivka, and the situation there is difficult. The Russians have essentially entered the outskirts of the village and are conducting a maximum number of shelling. South of their battles for the village of Makiyivka continue, but there are no changes along the front line. In the Kreminna direction, the Russians are still assaulting Nevsky and Terne for several months now. There have been no changes along the front line here. Similarly, the fighting in the forest near Kreminna hasn't stopped. The Ukrainian forces periodically carry out counterattacks, continuing to destroy the Russians. In the Siversk direction, the situation is more tense. Here, the Russians are showing significant activity and are trying to break through in Verkhnyo-Kamensk, in the Spirne, then Ivanodaryevka, Vyimka, and Pereizne areas. They're also shelling Siversk with cap bombs. However, there have been no new changes along the front line over the past day. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the Russians are not reducing their activity either. Battles continue for Grigorivka, and due to the recent advances by the Russians, they have created a partial encirclement of the village, making the situation critical. The Russians are taking advantage of this by throwing maximum forces into assaults. We are currently waiting to see how the latest assaults will end. Similarly, the Russians are making continuous attempts to advance further in Chasiv Yar and near Klishchiivka, but so far the front line remains unchanged. In the Toretsk direction, the Russians are conducting about 20 assaults per day and are already trying to break through to Toretsk. However, even the groups that manage to break through are still being destroyed, and most of the fighting is taking place in the areas of Dachne, Druzhba, Pivnichne, Zalizne, and New York. The Russians have achieved some new successes in New York. Overall, it seems that in the near future, we should expect new changes along the front line that are not in the favor of the Ukrainian forces. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians are acting quite effectively. As seen, they didn't leave the sections of the front, they extended in the areas of Zhelanne and Kamyshivka without reinforcement for long. Already today, we can see that they have been able to expand their territory, making it more difficult to cut off these positions. They have done the same near Vozdvizhenka. Moreover, they continue to try to expand their controlled territory near the village. They are attempting to assault Timofeivka and breaking through near Novoalexandrivka. Similar assaults on Zhelanne and breakthroughs near Novoselivka Persha and in the area of Yasnobrodivka are ongoing. However, the front line remains unchanged over the past day. In the Kurakhove direction, the Russians are also trying to achieve significant successes and are not sparing any effort. They are using a large amount of equipment for breakthroughs. However, as seen, the Ukrainian forces managed to break them on approach, so the front line hasn't changed over the past day. Additionally, today there are ongoing attacks near the village of Pobeda with assaults on Paraskoviivka and the village of Kostiantinivka. All nearby villages are also being heavily shelled, so the situation here remains tense. In the Vuhledar direction, the Russians are trying to assault Velika Novosilka and continue attempts to advance to the village of Vodiane. The Russians continue to shell Vuhledar itself, aiming to flatten the city completely before capturing it. As of today, there have been no new changes along the front line. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the Russians continue their attempts to advance towards Molotov-Machka, but they haven't had any success. For now, the activity here has decreased, suggesting that another regrouping has begun and the front line remains unchanged. In the Kherson direction, the shalom of the right bank continues, and Russian war correspondents report very interesting information that they have already attempted to cross to the right bank and suffered losses. The operation failed. There is information circulating about the losses in the 24th Motorized Rifle Regiment of the 70th Motorized Rifle Division during an attempt to cross the Dnipro River. There is a possibility this could be disinformation, but the message is too serious to ignore, especially since similar reports have appeared before. It is also claimed that on 24th of July, high-ranking officials visited the 24th Motorized Rifle Regiment to check for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear protection, but in reality, they were allegedly inquiring about losses due to the river crossing. You are well aware of our stance on the commander of the 24th Motorized Rifle Regiment Kazantsev and the commander of the Dnipro Group of Forces. We have also repeatedly mentioned Teplinsky's obsession with the idea of forcing troops to cross to the right bank of the Dnipro at any cost. As seen, the Russians appear to be genuinely trying to expand the front line in this direction. Overall, we await further developments. And that's all from me. So please, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.